Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gullah Business of Charleston. It's been a while, but we have another feature, and I'm always excited to have these features because we learn so much, and we're always excited when people want to come on the platform. So, my name is Nicole Pringle, and I'm the president of Gullah Business of Charleston, and I have the vice president here, Tiffany Savage.
Welcome to another great feature that we have in store for you guys.
So right now we have a special guest. He is an actor. He's an activist, an author. He's a teacher. He has a lot of titles, and he's here today. We have Barnard Sims. Mr. Sims, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you coming on the platform. If you just can get started and tell the people who you are.
Well, first of all, thank you, Tiffany and Nicole, for having me. It's an honor to be here. I know y'all say y'all from South Carolina and y'all got the title Gullah Geechee. I didn't hear y'all say South Kakalaki. I heard that's what. Well, I actually went to a slave plantation and mingled with the some of the people in there. And they were using that terminology. So I was wondering when y'all was gonna bring that out on but it's an honor to be here. I'm Barnard Sims. My pen name is Barnard the Barber. I started as a local activist in the community from being the barber because barbers normally have a hand on the pulse of the community and everybody brings their problems and pour them on to the barber and sometimes it's can be overwhelming. But if you're passionate about the people, we always try to do what we can do to help in any way. And that's spurred my activism. And my pen name is Bernard the Barber because in African culture, people retain wisdom from the community by listening to the wisdom of the elders. And so I chose that perspective to write from because I found it as a responsibility as Bernard the Barber to communicate some of those stories that people in our community had suppressed a lot of you know, struggles and not found positive ways to communicate or even deal with some of the issues that we deal with in our community. And so I took that as a responsibility to use that as my pen name, Bernard the Barber, to share those stories. There's a lot of times where people would pass or older men would pass, and I would share a story that they shared with me while they were sitting in my barber chair. And some of the family would be like, wow, granddad never told me that. So I just took that as a honor and a point of a badge of honor to speak and communicate as Bernard the Barber for my
That's
community.
awesome. Just reading background on you, I was so excited to see that you're also a former vice president of the NAACP chapter. You did
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
you also met the late and great John Lewis, which I don't think gets enough praise for the work he did.
Wow.
But he was such a humble person. I
Mhm.
think to him, it just to him being honorable, just to give him credit, is just to push what he was doing and continue the momentum. But how
Yeah.
was that experience meeting him and working with the NAACP?
Well, working with the NAACP is kind of like it was necessity. There's so much injustice that goes on in a rural community, and there's no outlet to a place to go. You can't go to the police to complain about the police. That's a waste of time. And so we started the NAACP brought it back uh, maybe 20 years ago in my area, and because we were overwhelmed with injustice, we've had people to uh, to die in our jails in Barrow County, and that's what spurred me to start writing because I would go in. There was a literacy gap to where inmates you find a correlation between literacy gaps and incarceration rates. And so what we found was people were being abused and they had no way to express it because they couldn't fill out the form. And so as the NAACP, we started interviewing people and gathering that information. And I start writing to articulate the struggles of those who are incarcerated, but they're still people. And so we wanted to put I wanted to use my writing to shine a light on the humanity of people when they're in their darkest places. And we got a little success in sharing those stories. We had a few policy revisions, slow down of the abuse, but we still got a long way to go. And John Lewis, to go to John Lewis, I noticed he started as an activist in a small town, and how it was meeting him was, I think I scared the man. And I've thought about little John Lewis standing on that bridge with Hosea Williams and Selma, and the state troopers are coming at him with horses to beat him in the head with clubs, and he didn't flinch. And when went to DC, like I think it was the commemoration of the 50th or the 60th March on Washington, and we was just stopping by his office. I had looked at a big TV monitor and saw him on TV getting interviewed by CNN, and I'm in his office just looking at his pictures and stuff. And I noticed this purple tie he had on the TV screen, and so they kept stalling us in there, saying, hold on, wait a minute, let me show you this, show you that," in his office. And he got off TV and came in and met us. And when he came in, this way I scared him. Big, robust Negro like myself just broke down and started crying. I mean, huffing and puffing, snot running out my nose, crying. I just, cause his presence, I can't even describe it. When he walked into that room and I saw that tie that he had on CNN, and Harry Belafonte's calling his office, and he took all of this is going on. He took time to come and meet me, and it was just humbling to meet the man
Wow.
and see the scars on his head. And he's such a small man, but he's such a large looming figure that it's one of the things that I'll never forget in my life, how that felt to be in the presence of such greatness.
Mm.
That's awesome. That is awesome because I had to ask you that question because now we see on TV activism. We need activists. We need people to speak up. But sometimes you get like you see it on TV just like I do. Sometimes people see one side of it where it's glorified, but they don't see the nights where they had to go without. They don't see the nights where they had to stay up and they had to protest and how they had to organize and doors were closed. So figures like John Lewis is like when he passed, it was kind of like, dag, who else is, we still have Al Sharpton, we have Jesse Jackson, we have different people still left, but you have to think about the generation now is that we're at a point now, they're like passing the torch, you
Right.
know, because they're not always going to be here to do it.
Mm-mm.
Um, and I don't want to stay too much on it, but you mentioned something that I think people really they try to downplay, they gaslight it, but the prison pipeline system.
Hmm.
When you mention that, there are people. So I was a former educator. People did not believe there was such a thing, and they would gaslight and downplay. Can you explain or briefly describe what that is?
The literacy gap and the correlation with
Mm-hmm.
incarceration rates. From the last time I researched, I think it was maybe 3 out of 4 inmates, and this is in Georgia. I don't know if that's nationwide. What have a problem with literacy? I mean, that's a crisis when it's something as simple as, we're not talking about in the days of Frederick Douglass and people not being allowed to read. We're talking about in this day and time that 85% of juvenile defenders can't read on grade level, and they correlates with incarceration rates. And so the great crime of our time is not addressing that achievement gap and
Mm-hmm.
filling that gap, because this is a problem that is a very, I think it's very doable for us to solve it. It's more compassionate to give a person a book with an image on the cover that looks like them, so that they can identify with the story. Because that was my problem growing up. All the books that I was given were of people that didn't look like me, that stories didn't sound like me. So I was just really just going through the motions of reading the words and not connecting with this with the storylines or whatever. But what I found out was I'm a visual learner. And as long as you can put me in that narrator seat, when I can see somebody who looks like me, like John Lewis on the cover, and I can be an activist like him. He was a very small man, but he made a big deal in this world. And so I could see myself in his, putting myself in his seat and trying to make a change in my own community. And so just being able to step into the role of the narrator seat and going on a ride will help. I think that helps a lot of us be able to visualize the story, and for those of us who are visual learners who need to be able to see it in order to be it. So I think
Mhm.
that would help us is starting off in early childhood development and giving our kids stories of people with images that look like them instead of nowadays we got the president who's trying to ban some of those stories like the Tuskegee Airmen don't want that taught in military school and which is absurd. There are a lot of black people serving in the military that need to hear that story for inspiration to know that we can do anything anybody else can do, and a lot of times we can do it better. But we have to connect ourselves to those stories.
I'm curious to know, when I hear people are involved in the communities, like you were, seems like for a very long time in your community. Um, for us, our grandmother, she just, celebrated a heavenly birthday. She was one that instilled in us, helping people and being out just to help anybody. And her thing was, you have to love everybody. You got to love everybody. She was very serious about that.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious to know, at what point were you like, I want to be in the community, I want to help people, this is what I want to do? Was there somebody that inspired you, or like, how did that work for you?
Uh, well, my mother, first of all, inspires me every day. Uh, but I had a uncle named Johnny. Johnny, he was in the NAACP, the president at the time, and at that time, people, you stand up and you speak out on behalf of the people that are being, systematically terrorized in little small town communities. And then when those people go home, he had to go home by himself and receive those phone calls and things of that nature. So just seeing the man that he was out in public and the man that he was at home inspired me to want to take a stand as a man wherever I am, and not what I wrote about in my book about not be one of the shrinking Negroes. It's one way we talk like in the barbershops when we're in the beauty salons, we in our own space, and we need to do this and we need to do that. And I'm talking about me now. I am subject to this cultural conditioning too. So I'm not just talking about us without including me, because I'm Bernard. I'm cutting hair at Bernard's hair salon, and we can be talking about something we need to do, and one white guy comes in and I start talking about something else. And then I had to catch myself, wait a minute. I don't have to be a shrinking Negro. This guy doesn't determine this is no I didn't get this job because of DEI. I got this job because of DYI, doing it ourselves. And that can insulate us from some of these changes that people want to impose on us. But I digress for a minute, but I was saying that to say this is something that psychologically we do sometimes, and we shouldn't, because what I found out from that nice white gentleman who comes in my barbershop, he was like, he's coming there to get the experience. And if I pretend that there's not a problem, he goes back to his church and his community and said, well, Bernard the Barber said there's not a problem with what happened to George Floyd, with what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. He didn't see anything wrong with it, so why should I? And so that's why I feel like it's important for us to take a stand wherever we are and whenever we can, so that we can educate our partners in the community on our experience and not dim our lights for
I
anyone.
completely understand that. I was having a conversation with Nicole not too long ago because I'm still in education field, but I'm a librarian now. And this is my first time being in a setting where we can have conversations. And I'm one of the few black people, that work there and actually sit across from my white counterparts, and they acknowledge there's such a thing as white privilege,
Mhm,
have discussions about George Floyd,
mhm,
have discussions of how minorities have been oppressed over time, and realize they have power and people do not use it the right way, and
mhm,
how their community needs to be like educated.
mhm,
So I completely understand. I feel like race is something that people have constructed to tear down other people, but we need to talk about it. We need
mhm,
to talk about what has happened systematically, and still happens systemically now.
mhm.
So I think that was really deep. And the DEI versus DY.
I
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, but
That
seriously
right
though,
there should be a meme. I love that one
That
right
should be
there.
it,
I mean
right?
that's seriously like all these conversations we're having about DEI right now. We could insulate ourselves from that with DYI. Well, I started reading stories about like during the Great Depression. I can't quote the guy's name, but he had interviewed like local people in Chicago who were insulated. You know, they could only shop in black places. So when the Great Depression hit, they weren't as affected by it. The guy said, I didn't even realize we were in a Great Depression until I saw a white guy taking out my trash in his own community because he couldn't go to the bank. So he didn't lose anything. He had to keep his money under the mattress or whatever because he couldn't shop in those shops downtown. He couldn't bank downtown. So DIY is a way that we can insulate ourselves from the impacts of DEI, the people dispersing that very needed program.
Yeah, I just like
Yeah.
that. I like that because DIY, you know, because when you think about it, and I
Yeah.
always think about that, I'm like, well, I don't want to use trendsetters, but we're the ones that we do we really need like we could control a lot of things, but I don't know if we just stick together. I don't know. It's just I always think about that.
We can. If we apply the principles that every other community applies, like when we're dealing with each other. And I wrote about this also in my book, The Southern Awakening. It's about if we apply collective economics instead of combative economics. For instance,
Mm,
if I go to a restaurant and I tip them 20%, and then I go to my brother or my sister, uh, I could call this a form of self-reparation. We could wait on the government to give us reparation. That is due to for our ancestors for labor that work that they did that was never paid. They were never paid for. But we could also, while we're waiting on that, we could apply a form of self-reparation, which means instead of me doing the normal 20% that I do at Longhorns or anywhere else, when I'm in a black business, I could tip maybe 30%. Or I could seek out and find that one black business a month that I could go and shop with them and make sure I take care of them the way I take care of everybody else. And it could be a form of self-reparation. It don't have to be, it's very hard to do, maybe very hard in some areas to do every day, but anybody can do that once a month.
yeah. When you say that, I was thinking about something because I was saying that this week. And it's one company that I just buy their pancake mix. It's Vicky's Cakes. Like I love their pancake mix. I buy it often because I found that since we started Gullah Business with Charleston, a lot of black owned businesses, Vicky Cakes is one, like their products are so good and it doesn't have all those additives and stuff that we just don't need anyway. And it's just good quality like
Yes.
products. You know, Naturally Love Hue is another one. It made my edges grow back. So I always talk about them. So like that's where I put my money because I know I know the background of the people and I know it's a
Mhm.
great product. So
Right.
that's what that's what we've been doing and just
Yeah.
starting that we just do it a little bit more now, because we
Right.
have
Yeah,
to,
for sure. Because at
Yeah.
first, it was a challenge, as you know, for a lot of people to, I know, especially for me, trying to look up black products and find out which ones are black owned actually, and which ones are going to be healthy for because someone may have a brand, but it may not fit your lifestyle. So you try to find those. But Julo Shop really helped us with that too.
Do a little shop.
Because
Exactly. Yeah.
I shot right through them because you could see the brand history. You can actually see the people's faces. You know why they started it. Because sometimes we get caught up. We may see something on the shelf. You may never know it was black owned. You know, you may
Mm,
never know the story behind it. So just finding about the stories of how they wanted something healthy for their family, so they want to give it out to other people so they could experience it.
yeah.
Because yeah, because
So
we
that's
I
were
what
need I
yeah.
need a product to get my edges back.
Well,
What's that
Yeah,
product? What's the
I'm
name?
telling
that's
you.
Give
cute.
me give me the name of that product.
I'm
What
telling you, I was completely bald right here. I was like, oh my gosh, like what? And then like we had just started Gullah Business in Charleston, and we had to do the 12 gifts of Christmas. What we do, that's another thing we do
Mhm.
every year. Like we find black owned products and that people can gift. And I was trying that product, and then I was like, "This is gonna go on the 12 gifts of Christmas because it brought my edges back in 90 days." I'm like, "This is crazy," you know.
Yeah.
And it's a mother and daughter company, so
Mhm.
it's just like, yeah. So that's what we've
I,
been doing.
I need some help myself. I need all the help I can get.
I'm just starting back up with it because you have to be consistently
You got to
using
be
products.
consistent.
So if you sent me, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
You got to be very
You
consistent.
got to
But
be consistent with it because they even give you vitamin gummies, which are pretty good. They're biotin vitamin gummies, which everybody know. You know this because you were an instructor. Mr. Sims,
mhm,
how biotin is good for your skin and your
Right,
nails
right.
and your hair. And
mhm.
so, yeah, and they're actually really good. It was like,
Yeah,
oh,
and they're not hard. You know, some of them are really hard.
yeah, it's like you about to choke, like, oh, like, you know. I think one thing, and what was really wild was, um, I would say this, we were positioned to meet people before certain things started happening. So we met the founder of Julo Shop before certain people were put into office.
Mhm.
So
Oh, that
she
happened perfectly.
it happened perfectly. It was months before, and she was trying to get it off the ground. And
Yeah.
now you look at it, it was like, dang,
As soon as
it's
that
just
DEI
blowing.
thing happened, and then
Mhm.
it just shot right up.
It shot right on up.
Good.
Because she
So,
was already carrying these brands and she actually had the connections to them. Because one of the main things she was talking about, and you alluded to it too, it's hard for black businesses to start because how much money it takes for them to front load investment for their branding and packaging.
Mhm.
Because as you know, a lot of money, that's where your money comes from. If you can ship something off, oh, you're good. But if someone remembers your brand, you're even better.
Mhm.
But how much money they put into it and how much, they have to, how much marketing they have to do in order for these huge companies like Walmart, Sam's, all them Target, for them to see them. And then the DI stuff came. And she would already had it. She already had it
yeah,
there for everybody.
Yeah.
that
So,
timing, that positioning. But I want to get into your books too. I want to get into your books.
Okay.
mhm,
Okay.
Award winning. So
Mhm.
you have The Southern Awakening, and you have A Black Man's Guide to Liberating the Rural South.
Yes.
It-
Yes.
yeah.
The Southern Awakening. It's a black man's guide to liberating the rural South, and a lot of times I'm in these settings. Like I was at Kennesaw State this past weekend, and I'm still in the rural South. So people are like, why is it a black man's guide to liberating the rural South? And I'm making a joke, but I'm serious at the same time. It's because I am a black man. I couldn't
mhm,
write it from the perspective of a white man or a white woman or even a black woman because I don't know those pains or those struggles that the different demographic is not firsthand and personally the way I do of being a black man. I know the struggles of being a black man of trying to look innocent when you're innocent. You cannot be
Mhm.
doing anything, and you look at like if you look at the studies like the Equal Justice Coalition was talking about black men are 12 times more likely to be put on death row. And the most
Mhm.
alarming statistic about that to me was is that 1 out of 9 of all of those men who are sitting on death row are somehow eventually found to be innocent. Now, innocent
Mhm.
isn't supposed to be found. You're supposed to be found guilty. But
Mhm.
I can imagine that how hard it is to be found innocent, I can imagine that there's more that we've, executed in our society. And to me, as a member of this society, the stain of those men's blood is on my hand. And so I can speak to that because I know what it's like to be accused of not doing something that I have no idea what the people were talking about. And I know what it's like, and I'm sure y'all do as well. Know what it's like to be in a store and somebody to be watching you like. And I'm like, I don't shoplift, so I don't know why you follow me around, but I can speak to that. So that's why I chose A Black Man's Guide to Liberating the Rural South, because I think the first point a path to liberation starts with me. And being a black man, I know we got terrible advice growing up. I know Eddie Murphy was talking about when he got rich and he got his first $1 million, he went to his idol James Brown and he said, Hey, James Brown said, hey man, what you got $1 million? Eddie Murphy like, yeah, I got $1 million. He said, well, I tell you what you do. Take it in the backyard and bury it. And he like, bury it in the backyard.
Yeah.
Well, shouldn't I buy some property or something with it? Yeah, nah, no, don't buy no property. He said, well, what if they take the property? James Brown said, well, yeah, but they won't know where you buried the money. And and I grew up getting it resonated with me so much because as a black man, we get some terrible advice growing up. Shut up, boy, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm already crying. I think I got something to cry about. So just writing is a path to liberation for me. It's therapy for me. It's a positive way to express myself in a way that's non-threatening to everybody else. Because I scared John Lewis when I started crying like that. I was huffing and puffing. I said, dang, I done scared the man. But so it's trying to find positive ways to express ourselves. We always say hurt people.
Mhm.
And we often wonder why our young people are out. Somebody stepped on their shoe and they Pookie or Ray Ray shoot up the club. But if we haven't trained them on how to express their feelings and emotion
Mhm.
in a productive way, then we're to blame for that. Because hurt people, but healing people can help heal other people. And so on my
Mhm.
path to liberation, I found it first a responsibility to try to heal me so that I can help heal others in our
And I like
community.
the fact that you use your platform. It's like you were already positioned to yourself. You were in the salon, you were in the barber shop. You could hear, just like you said, all the conversations going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yeah, cause people come in there and you got the atmosphere. When people come in there, they don't have to get their hair done. They're not dropping off nobody. They're not waiting on nobody. You just come in there.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Just to have that conversation because that's one of the few safe places that people have.
Right. And
That's been
again,
consistent.
especially in our community, like going to get help, seeking therapy or grief counseling, it's sort of
Mhm.
like taboo or frowned upon. Hey, he's something wrong with him. He had to go get help. But then I heard this other comedian say he was diagnosed with bipolar or something, and he said he told the therapist, "Nah, I just need a haircut." 'Cause that was his therapy is going to get a haircut.
Mhm.
No, I'm not this. If I get a haircut and I get to looking good, I feel better, and so I'll behave better. And so again, we've gotten some bad advice over the years, and we give bad
Mhm.
advice. So now we just, it's okay to get ask for help, and it's okay to not be okay.
No, I said I was just listening because that was deep. Yeah, it's like that's it. It's simple, but it's deep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
because
you
when
listening.
I'm thinking about like when people come in and whatever they've been going through in the week, and they come down, they sit down in your chair, and then they're gonna come up, they're gonna be a brand new man.
Hmm.
That's
Oh
gonna
yeah, and some of them look like it.
they
Yep,
do.
yep.
Sometimes it's unrecognizable. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, this the same person. I watch it
Yeah,
on Instagram all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
transformations.
That
You
yeah.
know.
transformation. Wow.
And I have high regard for the profession because I've seen with my own eyes. I've seen it's like an 87-year-old man who lives down the street. He's barely, but he can come to my barbershop and he comes in with his cane and he's barely walking. And I cut his hair and we go in back and forth in dialogue. And after I give him that crisp line and he get up and leave his cane and go run to his car. And I'm like, this is a ministry in a way to where this brother
Yeah.
was bad. He came up the wheelchair ramp when he came in here, but he left running down the steps just because he got a haircut. And so I was
Mhm.
like, wow, this is something that we could use and uplift our community more if we do more than just stand around talking about each other, but just
Yeah.
do more of that. Just a little small differences in people's life can make big differences in our community.
It
Wow.
does. It reminds me of the book, and Nicole has heard me talk about this book, but this book was powerful. Derek Barnes' The Crown. I love that book. It talks about a little boy, and in fact, it's his son on the cover that's illustrated. And he had been writing for years. And that, like, who would ever think an ode to the barbershop? That's what he did, how it made black boys feel when they left the barbershop.
Right.
Mm.
He said that was his award-winning book right there. He said he was just writing about how it made his son feel, how it made him feel when he was a child. You
Right.
know?
It make you stick your chest out and put
Hmm.
on, make you feel better. And anytime we feel better, we can do better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders said, "When you look good, you play good. And you play
Yeah.
good, you pay good." So
That is true. That is true
It's
for women
true.
too.
It's true.
That's true for women too. You do feel good.
You
You
do
feel a little
feel good.
healthier inside. Your walk is a little, tighter. You're faster with your walk, and
right.
yeah,
Yep.
it's true.
But just with the culture of Black people alone, you don't let anybody and everybody get on
Mm-mm.
your head.
Mm-mm.
You
Oh
just
yeah.
don't. You just
Nope.
don't. So it's like an intimate type thing. You're vulnerable. You're trusting that person to do what they need to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they're so comfortable to talk to you about all these issues, you're not only the stylist, but you also the counselor, you
Right.
also the friend, the
Right.
family, you're everything at that
Mhm.
point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there are men that want that, but not faithful to nobody else, but they won't cheat on their barber. That's
You
that's all.
know? Let y'all be sick or out of town. They'll wolf it out, won't they? They wolf it out until
Wow.
you get back.
I want to know any upcoming projects you got or anything you want to promote.
Yes, I will be. Well, not well. It's about. I thought I looked up on the map. It's about an hour from you all. It's in Columbia, South Carolina. I'll be at All Good Books on Saturday, May the 3rd, from
Mhm.
3 to 5, and that's in Columbia, South Carolina. I just left uh, South Carolina to read. What was that? South Carolina Book Lovers Book Fest, but it's not in y'all area though. I did come to a men's health. Are y'all near where Charlemagne the God Monk's Corner? Is that
Mhm.
en route?
Yeah.
It's a church in Charleston that we met at. It was like a men's mental health conference that was in Charleston. Maybe a
Wow.
year. I had to look at my Instagram to find out when that was, but I've
Okay.
I've been that up
Oh,
in
is
that
his
area.
mental health thing he does every year? Did he do it? He
Yes.
did it down here? Because I know he does it in New York too. I didn't know he did one down here.
No, he did one in y'all in Charleston or
Charleston.
Charleston.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
this is
I
a
think
Charleston, yeah.
it's well, I'm finna say something that's pretty generic, but I was finna say it was like a big brick church. It was,
Around
I
that area? Oh, I didn't even know he did that.
yeah, he did that. He did that there because I came to it.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's
Very
good.
much needed. Very much needed.
Yeah.
You know, men just in there expressing the emotions that we weren't able to express growing up, and so it's good to
Mhm.
have that space and those safe places to be able to, articulate how we really feel about things, and in order to help us heal and get better, so we can help heal our communities.
Yeah, we just did a men's panel. We were just hosting it, which we didn't say much. Um,
Mhm.
and what was that? In January, we had four panelists, some men in
Mhm.
the communities, just talking about everything. And some of the things I was enlightened in, like
Mm.
one of the
Mhm.
questions I was thinking about it the other day because I grew up with my dad, and you know how, in society, it's like, oh, well, supposed to be, I guess, in a way. I want a man like my dad, right?
Mm.
And I used to always say, I want a man like my dad. And so when the panelists were talking and some of them were married before, they was like, well, she wanted a guy like her dad. And I'm not her dad. I'm her husband. And I started thinking about it when they broke it down. I'm like, that's right. No, they're right. I like some of the things that my dad did, but I don't want my
Huh?
dad. I want my husband,
You
and
want
Right.
then
your
I
husband,
started putting
yeah.
that in perspective. Like I was like, oh, I've been saying it wrong. I've been thinking wrong. So
You
it was
want
good.
them, yeah. You want them to
Yeah.
do certain roles, but you don't want them to treat you like it.
You
Right,
know what?
right,
That's your dad.
That's your
This
dad.
is your husband. You gotta understand. And then like they broke it down and had me thinking, and I'm like, you know what? They're right. They're right. So I
right.
was like, I love that, men
But
can have the space to talk.
that just means your dad set a great example for you, though.
No, he
That,
did,
yeah,
but I can't
that's
expect him to be my dad.
Ah,
But yeah, that's good that men have a space to talk. I love that because I really We were the hosts. We just asked the questions. We sat back. We pretty much let them kind of like almost
Mm-hmm.
control it in a sense. But it was good to hear, and they were very vulnerable just to hear, because that's what happened. What happened was Tiffany and I started interviewing a lot of men back to back, and we noticed that they were being very vulnerable in every interview,
Mm-hmm.
and we were
Mhm.
like, you notice that they're just being very just open with us, and like off the without us recording too. So I'm just like, is there something to this? And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, what if we did something where they can come and talk, and we'll just sit back and listen, you
Mhm.
know? So that's how
Mm-hmm.
that started. But that's awesome that he did that here. I didn't even know.
You can visit my website at Barnard the Barber, BarnardTheBarber.com. All my future events are usually posted there, and my social handles are connected to my website.
Oh, that's
I'm
good.
looking forward to reading your book, The Southern Awakening. Well,
Mm.
listening to it.
It's
I'm
on
gonna see if I
Audible.
can get an Audible. I got
Yeah.
an Audible
I love
subscription. When I
Audible.
saw that, I was like, Southern Awakening was on Audible. I said, I'm getting it.
I love
Yeah,
Audible. It's so great.
I do
That
too. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yes. So,
Yeah,
Hmm.
that writing was one thing, but voice acting, I took voice acting classes because people don't want to hear you read your book. They want to hear what you was feeling at the time. And that
mhm.
was that was therapeutic again to be able to reenact some of the harsher things that in life that we all go through. But to be able to express that in audio and for people to listen it and hear my heart and uh, hopefully, hopefully that helps me healing myself helps me help them heal themselves as well. So that's a
That
blessing.
sounds fun. And as a disclosure, listening to a book, do not beat yourself up if you don't read it, you listening to it. I stay in the car most of the week, commuting back and forth to work.
Hmm.
So when I can listen.
It's
So don't
convenient.
beat yourself up if you listen to a book. It's the same. It's the
It's the
same.
same. Yeah.
It's the same.
It's
So
basically a theater of the mind, it's
Right?
listening to it.
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm excited to listen to it on Audible. Again, check out Mr. Sam's website. But before we leave, we always ask this elevator pitch question. We ask everyone that is featured and join us. What are 3 words that you would use to describe your passion and why you would choose them?
3 words to describe my passion.
Hmm.
Uh,
Your passion for writing,
All right.
activism, acting.
You got a lot of hats.
You
yeah.
got a lot of hats. You could say,
I,
what are
I,
3 words to describe your purpose? How about that?
uh, I think each well that's not but my nonprofit's motto is each one teach one. It's called Reach One Chess, where I use chess as a tool like to go in the boys and
Mhm.
girls club and teach our youth to think, to take a cognitive pause before acting, to and hopefully to plan and prepare them so that we can have better outcomes. So and I that the initiative is each one teach one. So if I teach you to play chess, you take and teach your little brother or your little sister or your granddad. Take time to sit with the elders and play with them. So it's each one teach one. I don't know if that's 3 words, but that's my motto
We
that
try
I
to
try
do 4 words, but
It's a little bit more, but it's
I try
okay.
to live by.
we got it. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because I did see that.
Mhm.
So chess is something that a lot of kids, it blew my mind where I work at now. They actually have a chess club for elementary students, and the kids are really competitive because
Mhm.
you don't see a lot of kids playing it.
Mhm.
So Nicole is in South Carolina. I'm actually here in North Carolina, and I'm here. When I saw a bunch of kids playing it, is that's awesome. And just to read that you have a nonprofit and they get chance to spend with with our singers, that's
Mhm.
powerful too, because they have a lot of wisdom that they want to pass down.
Mhm.
So just that interaction that they have with them. Thank you again for joining us, Mr. Sams.
Thank
I
y'all.
really do appreciate this. Has been really a thought-provoking conversation. It's been an interview, but just like everyone that we have each time we get on, not only are we promoting the ones the people that choose to come on our platform, also too, it gives us another push too as well. This has been very empowering just to hear your story, hear how you're intentional about everything that you do. That's really like motivating. So thank you for sharing your story. And again, I keep on saying it, but I'm gonna let you know my thoughts of the Southern Awakening because I'm looking forward to it.
Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you.
We thank you everyone for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.